All right, to start working on this lab, the first thing you're going to have to know how to do is create a list, and I'm going to assume you really understand that already from Lab 9. The second thing you have to understand is how lists get used and how they function in a function. So those are the two things we want to talk about first, and then we'll get to the sorting next. So I've created a list. List 1 is a blank list, and we did this before. What you want to do is you want to just take, let's just say we want a list that's 100 items long. Again, you don't have to call this I, you can call this anything you want, if that makes more sense to you. And we have to use the list append function method in order to get it to add things to the list. So what do we want to add to the list? Well, we want to add a random number, right? So we can print list 1, and it should have done 100 times with numbers from 1 to 100 and create a nice random list of things to start working with. So there we go. Starts with 41. There's 100 numbers in here. I see off the top of my head it got a 100. It got a 1. If we were to sort this, we should start seeing that happen. But before we sort it, what we're going to do is we're going to create a function that does the sorting. So I'm just going to create an example function for you right here that we'll call some function. And down here, we want some function. We say, okay, do some function and send it list 1 because we want to make some changes to list 1. What we're going to do up here is we're going to sort it. In fact, maybe I'll call it, sorting function. And so we say, if this is in parentheses, hey, we're sending you list 1, then up here we say, hey, you can expect to get some argument, is what this is called, or a parameter sent from here to here. And when we do that with variables in functions, we could call this one, if this was called George down here, it could be called Matilda up here because the function is separate. It doesn't see the same variables. It's got that variable scope thing going on. But lists in Python are a little bit different. So we're just going to say, hey, we have some list coming in, and we're going to call it test. And what's strange about lists is they are the easiest way to explain this, and you'll see the explanation in a minute and it'll make more sense. But you can almost think of a function, of a list as being global. The function, if you make a change to a function up here, oh man, I'm saying the wrong words. If you make a change to a list inside this function, when it said, hey, I'm sending you that list, and we make a change to something up here, it's going to change that list down here because it's going to affect the whole list every single time. Let me show you what I mean. If I was to take test, which is supposed to be this one right here, and I say, hey, I want to append something to test. I want to add the words functions are crazy, yo, to the end of that list. Now, I think you'll agree with me that this random number here, this is creating random numbers from 1 to 100. It should not randomly create the phrase functions are crazy, yo, because that is not, the last time I checked, a number from 1 to 100. But when I come down here and I say print list 1, it's going to have functions are crazy, yo, in it. And so that's funny, because here I called it test, and I said I want to make a change to test. But down here it says, oh, you sent it list 1, you told it to add functions are crazy, yo, so I added it to your list 1. In other words, I didn't have to say, like, return test and say send it back or anything like that. It just does it. It just makes the change. The technical aspect of this is that when you send it a list, what it does is it sends a pointer to where that list is stored in memory. And when we make changes to that, it's pointing to the exact same spot in memory, so it makes a change to the same list, even though we gave it a different label. Um, Other people can probably explain that better. I still, myself, find it a little bit strange. But the important part is that if you just know, if I make a change to a list in a function, it's going to make the change. So let me prove it to you by running it. What did I do, stupid? Some function is not defined. Oh, because here it's called a sorting function, and down here I called it some function. Okay, let's try that again. All right. So look, here's my list. I printed it. Then I called it again, and I added functions are crazy yo at the end. Exact same list. Starts with 35, 86, 59. You could check it out. Exactly the same. Ends with 71. But then I appended a new thing to it. Now, why am I spending the time showing you this? And if you're not listening to my voice and just watching it, what in the world is going on here, you might be wondering. It actually ends up helping us. Because what happens is if we create a sort algorithm here in this function, it will sort the list that we created in the main program. In other words, it does what we want it to do in this case. So if you want to just say whatever, Steen, just tell me the end result. The end result is we can call it anything we want here. It's actually going to affect the function we want it to affect down here. So everything is good. It's going to work out great. We can do this. But how it does it is a little bit different. And so I wanted to spend some time explaining that. I feel like I may have explained it very poorly. So listen to this like 5 or 6 times and you'll get it. Or just do this. Man, that was really bad. Okay, so we get, I should just exit out before this gets worse and maybe cut the last 5 minutes of talking off of this thing.